Good afternoon, everyone. This is John Scarborough. I wanted to talk a little bit today about creek banks and washouts. Anybody with cattle, man, look at that. That is an old snake skin right there. Probably not, actually not that old. Sure is a lot of snakes down in here, I know that. But what I wanted to talk about was these creek banks. Anybody with cattle knows about creeks and cattle getting down in your creeks and washing out and things. This is one of those creeks that the water will rise all the way up well over this creek. This is probably, I don't know, 10, 12, even up to 16 or 18 foot deep in some places. But most of it's about 10 or 12 foot. But anyway, the water will go well above the creek and then come all the way back down to almost nothing, become stagnant water, and then no water. It's not really worth drinking at all for cattle at this time of year. But you know, it's actually pretty decent drinking water most parts of the year because it's flowing. But during the hot summer, you just don't get any good drinking water at all. But what I wanted to talk about was how these creeks, how much basically butchering they get. I mean, you can tell in here looking at these roots. These root structures really get wore out from things like flooding and water just coming in. I mean, this creek will go from nothing to completely full in, I've seen it happen in 5 minutes. And it's because of all the property all around here that's got, that's a spider web there, that's got, they don't have a lot of things holding their soil together, and they don't have a lot of stuff to hold the water together. Excuse me, there's spider webs everywhere. So they don't have a whole lot of stuff to hold the water and actually hold it in. And you got to have carbon to hold water. I mean, look at this tree right here. This tree has been butchered. Now, this is probably my main example. You got to bear with me on the grass. 3 years ago, this tree was not like this at all. Now, I don't know how well you can tell on the camera here, but I took a tape measure and measured to the back of that dirt back there. That is 4 foot deep. Now, 3 years ago, that was only right here at the very edge. So all of this washout has only happened within a few years. And you can really tell it by the fact that there's not even any moss or anything growing on it. Like over here, the moss has really held up. But you can see we've still got bushes here that are washing out. So everything that's trying to hold the creek together is coming and getting pushed out and washed out. And that comes from 2 things. One, well, of course, floods, but the reason when you get lots and lots of rain out on your open pastures and you don't leave very much grass on there, it gets eaten all the way down. It looks like a golf course out there, all except for the weeds. There's nothing to hold any of that water back. It all just floods straight in there. So the person grazing the cows, they don't get any of the water because it just washes right off of there and takes off any topsoil you did have. Okay? And then it ends up in these creeks down here and washes your creeks out and washes out even more topsoil. Well, then secondly, you, like these creeks and stuff, if you have any cows that are down in here, or you're grazing cows or anything like that, this creek right here just gets wider and wider and wider. This creek in the last several years, we used to have a bridge over it, has opened up probably 4 foot down in here. And it's all because of the water that's coming in from all the property all the way around it. And from this one right here too. And to some degree, you can't do anything about that. That's gonna happen some. But a lot of it comes from not having enough organic matter, not having enough grass left on your pastures. I've seen a dramatic difference on our pastures just by leaving enough grass. When the rains hit, it really seems to catch that water. And yes, it does wash through it and it ends up down in the creek, and that's fine. But it's holding your topsoil. It's not getting all filthy and draining every ounce of topsoil you got off of there. Plus, it actually absorbs some of it. I read an article the other day that for every, I think, for every 1% of organic matter that you have on your property, every 1% per acre you get, I think, 25,000 gallons of water per year more. So if you start out, let's say 5% of organic matter, and then you go to 6%, well, that's 25,000 gallons per acre more than you did before. So that's 25,000 gallons that you're getting to keep on your pastures, and 25,000 gallons that's not washing out your creeks like this, and you end up losing all your shade trees and stuff, because eventually all of these trees, a lot of these trees, not all of them, will start to fall and cave in if something doesn't happen. They can't handle it for forever and ever, you know. This all used to be woods, so once a lot of the other trees were killed off, then the root structure started rotting out, and so now these trees are the only ones that's left. And this tree right here, I mean, it's already leaning this way, and it's a big solid tree. It would not surprise me if an old tree like that would just keep on holding on and somehow make it, you know. But one of the best things that I really wanted to talk about, one of the best things to hold a creek together, is not necessarily just tree roots. Tree roots are great, but it's tree roots and stuff like moss and grass. Now here where we live, moss doesn't just grow great here. It grows okay if it's in the shade, but we don't have just shade here. So what really seems to hold these creeks together the absolute best is grass growing up through the creeks and around the creeks, really a big pile of grass left over. Like, you don't just graze the grass completely down. There's some grass left along the sides. That right there will really hold a creek together better than trees. I mean, you see these trees, you would think that would do a great job, but over time there's still a big solid root and water's going to go right through it. But when you get grass roots, they're like a paper netting. I mean, they're just like, they're weaved all together super tight. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that, about letting some grass grow up. Don't just graze your pastures all the way down to nothing. I've seen some big increase in just allowing the grass to grow and grow up through there. My goodness, look at this. There's another snake skin right there. I don't know how well you can see that, but they're everywhere. Probably all around me right now. But anyway, I'm not going to sit here and bore y'all too much. I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit. I mean, you see this one right here. There's hardly anything holding that thing up right there. But it needs some grass. It needs something small growing up through there, like a net, that really holds that soil up. So just by moving your cattle often enough and not leaving them in one spot, that really makes a huge difference. Thank y'all. Have a good day.